Hey, this is Jimmy. Who is this?
Jimmy is President Joe Biden.
Hey, Mr. President. What are you calling? You looking for your old documents again? Did you see Mike Pence found some too? This is all very exciting.
Yes.
No, goddammit, I didn't call to talk about these stupid documents. We talked about that the last 2 weeks, and I'm out of jokes about it.
Okay, well, I see where you call. What are you calling about then?
Jimmy, I'm calling to announce that we are finalizing plans to send about 30 M1 Abrams tanks to Ukraine.
Wow, and this comes just shortly after you said that this was off the table, that we weren't going to send them our advanced tank hardware because the training and maintenance support would simply be too much.
Exactly. And that's why I'm calling you. I want to get ahead of this one and say I changed my mind. Not that I was lying or anything.
Why did you change your mind?
Well, Mr. Z just really wanted some of those tanks.
Yep.
Said he couldn't live without them.
President Zelensky, I presume.
Yeah, Mr. Z. He's going to love these tanks so much. I just know it. I can't wait to see him ride around in one of them. His head sticking out of the cockpit with all the gear on, saluting, just like Dukakis. What a great photo op that will be. Everyone will say, look how brave he is.
Yeah, Mr. President. This is a move that will further agitate the Kremlin, without a doubt. This will cause escalation of international tensions. Is this really a good idea?
Well, we had to do it.
Yeah.
You see, yeah, asshole. You see, I'm the fucking president. Give me some respect.
All right.
You see, Germany said they wouldn't send their Leopard tanks unless the U.S. promised some M1s first. So we broke that little stalemate there with our promise. So now Germany's sending the Leopards. And the UK have now pledged to send some of their Challenger tanks.
Wow, that's a lot of tanks.
It's raining tanks. Praise be, it's a miracle.
Yeah, quite. Why do they need all these tanks?
Because they say they do.
Yeah.
There's a big Russian onslaught coming, and they need these next generation tanks to deal with the onslaught. Jimmy, we can't let this defenseless Eastern European nation be caught in an onslaught without next generation tanks. We simply can't.
So where does this end, Joe?
What do you mean?
I mean, how far down the road is the U.S. willing to go to help defend Ukraine from the entire Russian military and navy?
However far it takes.
You know, that's what we said once about Afghanistan, and look what happened there. You yourself oversaw our final shameful retreat that reminded many of Vietnam.
Exactly. That's my point. That's something that the president 20 years from now will have to deal with. I'll be fucking dead by then. Won't be my problem.
I mean, at what point do we stop sharing our military and all its resources with a foreign power? And all that money we're giving them too, is Ukraine becoming a de facto territory of the United States with full access to our treasury and national defense?
But no. But when you put it like that, I guess it sort of seems bad.
Hold on, Mr. President. I'm getting another call. Hello, this is Jimmy Dore.
This is Volodymyr Zelensky, president of Ukraine.
Oh, Mr. Zelensky, I was just singing your praises.
No, that's not your line. Hey, Mr. Z, I was just singing your praises.
Oh.
Shut up. Who is this man you talk with? Oh, Jimmy, he's nobody. I swear he's just a friend from work.
Oh, is that all I am?
I know like things you say to Joe. I declare you enemy of humanity. Joe. Yes? When our tanks come? I want tanks now. Oh, Mr. Z, like I said, it's not going to be immediate. We need to train, send support material, and so on. Thanks now. And also, thanks very much. See? I am committed in my country. But look, you have these German Leopards on their way. They're right there. They're on your continent. I spit on leopard. I want Abrams. Best egg. I look online at specs. Abrams most firepower. Zelensky cannot wait to shoot. Warzier. Send him now. I demand you.
Mr. President, are you really going to let him talk to you like this?
You shut up. You Russian asset, I decide this. I represent freedom to whole world. No, Jimmy, it's fine. It really is. He's just excited and patriotic. Also, it's late there. I think he's sleepy. Do not talk to me like baby. Are you to send tanks or no? Of course, Mr. Z. I'll get right on it. I'm sorry for the delay. This is good. Now, let us talk how you say tactical nuclear warhead.
Whoa.
Mr. Z, I can't. Only as deterrent. Do not be pussy. I can't let you have one of those. And come on, man. You and I both know you would use a nuke the second you got one.
Mr. President, I'm begging you, do not give President Zelensky tactical nuclear weapons.
But I want.
Jesus.
Jimmy, he makes a compelling argument.
No, he does not, in fact. I'm hanging up on him right now.
No.
Click.
Jimmy, why'd you do that? We were doing diplomacy.
No, you were showing the world how you're getting pushed around by a foreign leader who is bent on getting what he wants.
Tomato.
Yeah.
Look, I know what I'm doing. I'm playing 3D chess over here. Give me some credit.
I'm sorry, I'll not be platforming the next Iran-Contra scandal on the Jimmy Dore Show.
Hey, now there's an idea.
Ah, jeez.
I may just have to have an underling at the Pentagon talk to the old Ayatollah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jim. You may have saved my ass. Until next time. And you never heard any of this.
Okay. Hey, this is Jimmy. Who's this?
Jimmy, it's Vince Vaughn, your one and only beloved Double V.
Hey, Vince. It's great to hear from you again. I hear you called in when I was on vacation a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, and I must say that was a terribly destabilizing experience, if I'm being perfectly honest. But you're back now. Big Daddy is back. Everything is going to be just fine, and I can stop lighting candles near your framed picture now.
Yes, I'm back.
Probably TMI, that last part. But anyway, guess what I had planned for you and me today?
What's that, buddy?
Vince Vaughn's Tinseltown Showpinions Oscar edition.
Oh, that's right. They just announced the nominees.
That's right, baby. It's Oscar season once again, and always, I have not seen a single fucking one of these flicks.
Are you serious?
Jimmy, I haven't seen a movie that I am not personally in since 1998. Everyone else can suck it.
Yeah.
However, I can guess everything I need to know about a movie just using my Hollywood superstar spidey sense.
Oh, okay. Well, what do you got?
Well, Jimmy, let's go right to Best Picture, shall we? Just grab her by the front and start hawking. Jimmy, in the year of our Lord, 2023, Top Gun 2 was nominated for Best Picture by the Academy.
No.
Yes. A move that is sure to appeal to men who still call things that they don't like gay, or the word that rhymes with fatarded. Also, a nod to Avatar 2, The Way of Water, which likewise I'm sure is being celebrated in the incel community. Much more expected nominations include The Banshees of Inisherin, a movie about a guy who stops liking his friend and doesn't want to hang out with him anymore.
What?
That's the whole movie, Jimmy. That's what the movie's about.
What?
But it takes place in Ireland, so, it's poignant and
Oh,
scenic.
all right. What else?
Well, let's see, The Fablemans.
Oh, I can't
Because
get through
let's see what little Steven Spielberg could do. Maybe he can pull it off again. And a movie called Women Talking. That's what it's called. Women Talking. I know nothing about that movie, and as God is my witness, I never will. That I can fucking promise you and your listeners. And then there's Tar.
Tar.
About the mean lady who conducts symphonies and shit.
Really?
That smells like a winner to me, Jim Jam. It kind of looks good and feels right. But don't hold it to me, Jimmy. Don't hold me to it. This is purely for speculation purposes and not gambling / and or fact purposes.
Okay, I got it.
Best actor, you got Brendan Fraser for The Whale.
Brendan Fraser coming out of nowhere.
Yeah, I know. Which I think that this might be indicating a new trend in Hollywood, Jimmy.
Yeah, what's that?
Well, it used to be the ultimate Oscar bait performance was a person who was not mentally handicapped playing a mentally handicapped person.
Right.
But that's no bueno in 2023. So the new trend will be non-morbidly obese actors playing morbidly obese people in fat suits. The fact that The Whale was also nominated for Best Makeup dovetails with this very nicely, so I'm predicting this fat suit trend will be red hot, baby, red hot, until it is canceled in probably November or December.
I didn't know that. Right, okay.
Yeah, you don't know anything about these movies either. That's what's great.
Yeah.
And we also have young up-and-comer Austin Butler for his portrayal of Elvis Presley in Elvis.
They did an Elvis
sure
movie?
To delight your great aunt who always wears really sparkly shit who got horny watching that dumb movie.
I didn't even know they did an Elvis movie. Okay, what about
wow,
best?
You are really out of it.
What about Best Actress?
I could just completely make shit up.
Yes.
Right now. You wouldn't know.
I don't know anything.
Yeah, Best Actress. Jim's, this is where it really gets exciting.
Really?
Nah, not really. A couple of broads I've never heard of. Plus, Kate Blanchett for playing the mean symphony lady. Oh, also Ana de Armas for her portrayal of Marilyn Monroe in Blonde.
Oh, really?
Yes, and hats off to that choice, in my humble opinion. If Anna doesn't win an Oscar, she can count on winning a Mr. Skin Award. That much I can assure you. Truly a stellar performance that I personally have only seen very short clips of, but multiple times.
Okay, Vince.
But the main chatter with the ladies is the fact that no women were nominated for Best Director.
Ah.
Can you believe that?
Yes.
Some are saying, hold on, some are saying that this is a disgrace. But I'm saying maybe they should have directed harder. Like, did a better job. Did they ever think of that?
No comment, Vince.
And to no one's surprise, the movie I produced this year, Christmas with the Campbells, was completely passed over by the Academy. God forbid a fun, lighthearted holiday comedy gets thrown a bone by Hollywood.
Yeah, it's usually not the type of movie that gets nominated for Oscars, Vince.
Yeah, I know. And that's why the Oscars suck. It's a bunch of movies that no one has seen and no one gives a shit about. Until that changes, I'm going to absolutely clown on Hollywood's most pretentious night. Are you with me? Are you with me, Jimmy baby?
I am, Vince.
All right. Well, you know what? I'll check back with you after Oscar night to see if how the festivities actually go down. Ooh, maybe someone will get slapped.
Yeah.
Maybe someone will catch COVID. Who knows? But you'll get the dish right here on Vince Vaughn's Tinseltown Show Opinions. Until next time, bitches.
We're here with Dan Cohen, ladies and gentlemen, and he made a doc. He's from Uncaptured Media, new news outlet, and he's here with us. He did a documentary on Haiti, and here's a preview of it, a little trailer for it.
A nation in turmoil, ravaged by empire, neighborhoods at war, the state on the brink of collapse, revolution in the air. A man at the center of it all. To some, a villain.
Jimmy Cherise alias Barbecue, li te vle guide nou non façon pou nan voler même janvel.
He's a criminal. He's not revolutionary.
To others, a hero.
Fòm meni nan chache manje pou n'manje.
He is a revolutionary leader.
C'est grâce à déporter avec Monsieur Barbecue qu'a fait vivre.
Join us as we seek to uncover the truth about the uprising in Haiti today.
Ou pa ka avanse devan la, debo avanse ap tire sou. Atensyon, Hey, watch out, come here. Tout système nan di nou pa ka revolutionnè, paske an di revolutionnè pa konde chouke, yo men di sa yo ple, men nou konde nou pa le chouke nou pa konde. Le mwen ke fè diferans an kom, bansi, a moun ka fè revolusyon.
La pren la, li entre, li sorti la.
They have to have a revolution. It's got to happen.
So Dan Cohen, who's made that documentary, Dan, tell what in the hell is going on in Haiti, and who is that guy Barbecue, who everybody thinks is their hero?
Right. Well, so if you read about barbecue, if you like Google Jimmy Barbecue Cherizier, that's his name, Jimmy Cherizier, his nickname is Barbecue, you will read that he is the worst guy in Haiti. He's committed all these massacres. He likes to he got his nickname Barbecue because he likes to barbecue people. He likes to burn people alive. And you know that he's just the worst guy, and he's responsible for every problem there. And that the U.S. basically has to go in and intervene and take him out. So, I mean, to probably anybody who's watching this show, that should suggest that he's actually not that he's the opposite. And so, basically, this project, so the documentary is called Another Vision Inside Haiti's Uprising, started with this outlet Haiti Liberté, which is a Haitian outlet that has an office in New York. And my co-director, Kim Ives, is the English language editor there. And so basically they recognize that this guy Barbecue is like a real deal, you know, wants to lead a revolution, wants to basically completely change the system where Haiti is a neo-colony of the United States, of the West, and has been for a long time. And, you know, people live in the most abject, extreme poverty and exploitation in the world because of Washington. And so they recognize who this guy is, basically before anyone else in the media did. And then after the president of Haiti was assassinated, Jovenel Moise was assassinated in July 2021, I interviewed Kim Ives, and he said, yeah, you know, there's this guy Barbecue, this is happening, and this is kind of what this assassination we think is about. And so I was like, well, can I go meet him? You know, can we go interview him? And so we went down there. About 2 weeks later, we went down there again the next month in August of 2021 and filmed the documentary. And it took about a year of editing. But basically what we do is go through the charges against Cherizier. And what we found in our research is it all comes back to National Endowment for Democracy funded human rights groups and media outlets that get like echoed throughout all the mainstream media. So when you read, you know, the New York Times or the AP or any of the human rights reports on this guy, it all goes back to the NED, which we know NED is CIA.
Yeah, so the NED stands for the National Endowment for Democracy. The NED is how the government funds propaganda, like people like Bellingcat. We've talked about them. They're the ones who lie about Syria and everything. So the NED gives them money. So now the NED is giving money to, if you hear negative stuff about this guy, Jimmy Barbecue, it's being funded, that coverage is being funded by the NED, which is a CIA cutout in the United States government.
Is Jimmy Barbecue passing out Viagra so that they can
so they could do rapes? Because that's what they always say.
That's what these guys do. They're madmen.
Yeah.
Yeah. He took the page right out of Gaddafi's book. He was doing that. You know, he was committing chemical weapons attacks on babies in Syria. He helped Assad with that.
Wait, why is he called Barbecue for real? Is it because of the?
Because when he was a kid, living in his neighborhood, there were a bunch of other Jimmys, and his mother sold grilled meats on the street, and so he just became known as Jimmy Barbecue.
That's quite a different story from the.
He likes to burn people,
barbecue,
you know, whatever.
People alive.
Yeah.
So the part that he got the nickname because he burns people alive, that comes from the CIA NED, right?
That's actually, yeah. I mean, it's the source that I found for that is Vice. That was in like Vice has been the main propaganda kind of organ against this. They've done a whole bunch of video reports.
Vice is CIA.
They're awful,
If people
Vice.
don't know,
Completely.
Vice is not what you think they are. Vice works directly for the CIA.
You should see the brave reporter who goes deep undercover to take an Andrew Tate man class and look at him scared. And then he said we all just stand up and say, like, do you think you're a reporter, honey?
Okay.
So like he, Barbecue is a former cop. He was like a real serious cop who was basically trying to protect it, do good for his neighborhood and sort of, believed in the system. And then for political reasons, he got burned by the system and was like, wait a minute, this is bullshit. And, and so through this process, he went from like straight shooter enforcer of the system to like, we have to overthrow this apartheid system. And he's not from he's not like an ideological like Marxist-Leninist revolutionary who's trained in all. He's like he is shaped by his experience of being burned by the system, of being blamed for massacres that didn't happen, essentially, that were not massacres. But it's very similar to Syria, for example, that they take like fighting and say that's a massacre, so they erase one side and then inflate the deaths on the other side. Like in Syria, you could not talk about people that were killed by like US backed death squads in government controlled areas, and then the media would talk nonstop about anyone. They'd even fake stuff in opposition controlled areas. It's the same stuff in Barbecue's area in Haiti, in his neighborhoods that he controls, that he's a social leader there. They will not talk about a massacre that we document, the Delma 6 massacre, the Lower Delma massacre. We documented it. We're the human rights groups that are funded by the NED. They completely ignored it. We're the only people who have investigated that, Haiti Liberté and myself. They won't talk about it. But then they fake a massacre, and if you Google the La Saline massacre, there's 1 million articles on it, and it's in every AP report and everywhere you read about Barbecue. And we investigated that, and it's bullshit. It was not a massacre. It was a battle, and Barbecue had nothing to do with it. And, frankly, in Haiti, where it's essentially a collapsed state thanks to the U.S., there's a lot of violence. There's essentially, strongmen or armed neighborhood groups battling for control, and that's what happens. But, so there are a lot of parallels that you see in an enormous amount of propaganda, and no one has really just examined this stuff until Haiti Liberté, Kim Ives, myself went and really took a look at this. And I told Kim before we went down there, I was like, Kim, I don't know that I'm going to agree with you about Barbecue. I don't know, man. And, lo and behold, he was right. And that just turned into this documentary. So, that's
where do you see it ending up in Haiti? Like what I see is that the capitalists will just crush whoever tries to stand up against them, like they've always done. What do you see happening?
The thing is, there have been different kind of leaders to emerge from the slums, like neighborhood leaders, social leaders, who have weapons, but they haven't gotten to the level that Barbecue has gotten to, where he's been able to. So his organization is called the G9. It's called the Revolutionary Forces of the G9 Family and Allies. Mess with one, you mess with all. Okay, that's the full name. Called the G9. A lot easier. He has managed to unite a whole bunch of different armed groups, some of which were formerly involved in criminal activity, some of which were not. And they're all against criminal activity now, like kidnapping for money, rape, that kind of thing. And they are fighting bitterly. I mean, really serious fighting against the criminal groups that are involved, that do kidnap and rape and kill and, innocent people. And so those groups are basically work on behalf of the oligarchs that are tied to the U.S. Okay, so the thing is, because Barbecue has been able to unite so many different armed groups, that's like roughly, more than half of Port-au-Prince, more than half of the capital, he has gotten to a level that figures before him, who were social leaders with weapons, they hadn't gotten to. So he presents a threat to the United States, but the main problem for the U.S., which totally wants to carry out a military intervention, invasion in Haiti and take out barbecue, is they know that if a bunch of Marines go and land in Port-au-Prince, the Haitians will reject that, and they will rally, maybe even rally around barbecue. Haitians do not want foreign interference, especially U.S. interference in their country. They're extremely sensitive to it, and they are a proud people, despite living in the worst conditions, some of the worst in the world, because they're the only country to have ever had a successful slave revolution and then defeat 3 empires. The British, the French, the Spanish. I mean, that's just an incredible feat. And so Haitians carry that pride with them, that anti-colonial pride. And so if the U.S. sends puts boots on the ground to go take out barbecue, it's going to be like, it's not going to go well. And the U.S. knows that. So the U.S., what it's been doing for months, is trying to find another country and trying to get the UN to give its blessing to basically an invasion itself. So it doesn't look like it's a U.S. initiative. In the UN Security Council, Russia and China have basically blocked it. Like, they're not going to go along with it. It's not Russia and China of 20 years ago. And, so now the negotiations have been going on for months. Biden administration is trying to get Trudeau to agree to it. What they ended up doing a few months ago, when I was there in November on a reporting trip for Redacted. If you all know Redacted with Clayton and Natalie Morris, they commissioned our reporting. So Kim and I went when there was this major showdown going on at the at a fuel terminal. Basically, what had happened is the IMF removed fuel subsidies, so the whole country erupted in protest, and the G9 said, we're going to go block the fuel terminal, so nobody's, the rich aren't going to get gas until either the prime minister resigns or until you put the fuel subsidies back. And so we went to report on that. And so the U.S., what it ended up doing is sending in armored vehicles, like highly advanced armored vehicles, to the Haitian police, and they were able to basically dislodge these guys from the fuel terminal. And that kind of ended the episode. But it's still just simmering, and so it remains to be seen. I mean, it's definitely conceivable that the U.S. could go in and, assassinate him, carry out some kind of operation. He's well aware. And in our reporting for Redacted, we asked him, what is your response to that? The U.S., he's under U.S. sanctions, UK, EU, Canadian, and UN sanctions. They want to take him out. And, he was basically just like, what he said is, it doesn't make me hot or cold. He's like, what's going to happen? We'll see what happens at that point. If they want to come, we're ready. And so, it remains to be seen. But the G9 is a powerful force that has popular support. It's not like everyone supports them, but it's growing. And one way for Cherizier, for barbecue to really gain in prominence, is for the U.S. to come in and come after him. So, I mean, we'll see what happens.
Dan, where can people find this documentary?
So on my YouTube channel, Uncaptured Media, you can find it. There are 3 episodes. So watch all 3 of them. It's free. If you want to subscribe to my Substack or something, that's appreciated. But check out Haiti Liberté's reporting too. They're really the only independent channel talking about Haiti and doing good reporting on Haiti. And then I do what I can. So you can see it on my channel, my YouTube channel, my Rockfin channel. I got to upload it to Rumble. Uncaptured Media. So yeah, check it out there. It's on my Twitter too. You can just find in my Twitter bio, I have the playlist on YouTube.
Fantastic. Everybody can check out Uncaptured Media at YouTube. You can see the 3-part documentary on Haiti, and check out Uncaptured Media for all their up-to-date reporting. Dan Cohen, hey, what was that thing I wanted to have you back on for?
For Peter Hotez.
Oh, yes. So, yeah, we're going to have him back on. We're going to talk about that. Okay, thank you, Dan Cohen, very much for coming on, and thanks for the info. We'll see you soon.
Thanks a lot, Jimmy.
Okay, bye-bye. I'm here with Americans comedian Kurt Metzger, Steph Zamorano, and our guest today is Dan Cohen. He's an independent journalist and filmmaker based in Washington, D.C. He's reported from Israel, Palestine, Latin America, the U.S.-Mexico border for outlets like Mondoweiss, The Nation, Alternate, The Gray Zone, Al Jazeera English, and Vice News. He recently launched his own journalistic outlet called Uncaptured Media. Welcome back to the show, Dan Cohen. Hey, Dan.
Hey, Jimmy, how are you?
Good. I wanted, so you have this article at Uncaptured Media. It says former Pentagon official says many more bags needed to achieve regime change in Russia. Now this is,
body bags.
So during an appearance at a January 11th Council on Foreign Relations event called What to Worry About in 2023, Executive Director of the McCain Institute, Evelyn Farkas, was asked by Fox News chief national security correspondent Jennifer Griffin which countries might be overthrown in 2023. Let's watch the fun.
Evelyn, are you seeing any places that you think regimes are faltering? We have a lot of authoritarian leaders out there. If you look you're looking at a regime in Iran that is looking a little unstable. Putin, are you seeing any signs of cracks in terms of stability there? Could that be a surprise, a 2023 surprise? North Korea, any place that you're looking at in terms of a potential regime change that could destabilize a region or the world?
Well, obviously a big one would be Russia, but I don't think they're on the precipice there. I think things have to get worse economically, and there have to be many more body bags and frankly, military losses before there's a change in the government in Moscow.
Evelyn.
Wow, Dan, she just says it. She just said, got to be a lot more body bags. We got to somehow get that. We have to wait till we get a lot more body bags. So we got to kill a lot more people.
You gotta have goals.
You got to have a goal. So tell people exactly who she is and what her background is, Dan.
Evelyn Farkas, now she's the director of the McCain Institute, keeping the spirit of
war going.
The spirit of dead John McCain alive, sadly. But she has been she's basically an Obama era Pentagon official. She was the undersecretary for Russia, Ukraine from 2012 to 2015. So she oversaw basically right after the coup that her counterpart in the State Department, Victoria Nuland, and Joe Biden, that was vice president, oversaw. She basically started arming the Azov battalion, getting the U.S. to train them, getting hundreds of millions of dollars, which is a pittance compared to what's going to Ukraine now. But it started that flow. That was from her getting that money into Ukraine from the U.S. and kind of beginning its transformation from, Russia-aligned post-Soviet state to like the freak show, Nazi-infested state that it is now. And she left in 2015 because Obama didn't want to send lethal weapons to Ukraine, and then also that was at the same time as the Syria Red Lines, the chemical weapons attack that was staged by the opposition. That Obama declined to intervene and carry out regime change in Syria, and so there was this kind of neocon exodus in 2015 from the Obama administration, and she went into the think tanks, Atlantic Council, et cetera, and now she's at the McCain Institute. But she was interviewed at the Council on Foreign Relations, which that is the premier think tank in Washington. That's above the Atlantic Council. That is like the most prestigious think tank. So it's pretty remarkable what she said, I think, for a number of reasons. Because one, she admitted that we're not about to overthrow Russia. If you look at her op-eds in the Boston Globe is one of them. I mean, and the same thing that all of the hawks in Washington are saying is that just one more weapon shipment, that's going to give Ukraine what it needs to defeat the Russians, and we're going to stick it to Putin finally, and Ukraine's going to be victorious. But she, in the comfort of the Council on Foreign Relations, she admits that that's totally bogus, that we're not about to see regime change, and the only way for that to happen is a lot more economic suffering, body bags, and she's just people dying. Presumably she's talking about Russian soldiers, but obviously that's Ukrainians too. And just more death and suffering.
Just casually. Well, we're gonna need some more body bags. Check. Body bag check.
Yeah.
More dead babies. Check. More dead people. Check.
Ooh, maybe we'll get a surprise. A 23 surprise.
I mean, the way these people talk about that is the most bizarre. And that idea. Remember when they used to say, "Well, if women ran the world, we wouldn't have any more wars."
Yeah,
women are fucking psychopath, maniac, bloodthirsty killers, just like men. And there's proof of it right there. Just casually flipping. How we get regime change in Russia? It's going to take a lot more body bags. Just like that. Hey, could you pass the tea? It's going to take a lot more body bags. Boy, get some sugar in here. Oh, it's great. Just like it's nothing.
Not since Jon Stewart was talking to Condoleezza and Hillary have I seen such
casualness at death.
Casual war pickery.
At mass death. Yeah. Well, Dan, I appreciate you bringing that clip to our attention. That is mental. And those are the kind of people who are making these decisions today. People don't realize that we're being led by literal psychopaths. That's a psychopathic thing to say. That's not something someone normal would say. And that's like the banality of evil.
That's how you get into the best think tank in the country. That's like the best psychopaths.
That's right.
The classiest psychopaths.
Classy.
I mean,
go ahead, Dan.
One of the things that it took me a little bit of kind of thinking about that clip to realize is that if we're not about to overthrow Russia, which is obvious to anyone who's paying attention to this,
we are not.
And any of the serious, the real military experts who are, who talk about this stuff, what is going on here? And I think it's not only just get money for the military industrial complex, but it's basically destroy Europe, deindustrialize Europe. And if you look at what just happened at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Samantha Power, the USAID director, was there appearing with the Ukrainian Minister of Digital Transformation, which, what the hell is that? That's all about implementing the Fourth Industrial Revolution and the Great Reset. And Ukraine is a laboratory for that whole thing. So basically they need to burn Ukraine down by having it, basically pushed up against Russia and Russia forced to defend itself. And then they can implement this whole thing where, they have like vaccine passports rolled out. They have a digital ID, all of this stuff. Every aspect of Ukrainians' lives are now controlled through their smartphone, which is what they want to export around the world. And that's what Samantha Power was just in Davos promoting, saying, "Oh, here's millions more dollars because now we're going to export this. The next country is Estonia." So that's something I'm going to be investigating coming up. But that's, I think, a major aspect of this Ukraine war that obviously the U.S. wants regime change in Russia, but it's not so. The U.S. knows, the planners know that sending these tanks, sending Patriot missiles is not really going to achieve it. Keeping this little drip, it's just going to prolong the war and get Ukraine destroyed and dismembered so they can rebuild it with BlackRock and JP Morgan and Klaus Schwab's Great Reset in this totally kind of digital dictatorship dystopian image where you are reduced to your smartphone and you can just be cut off from services at any time if you belong, if you have some kind of thought crime. As of course Zelensky's banned all the opposition.
That's right.
Labor unions, all that stuff. So that's the future that they want, not only in Ukraine, in Europe, but here. That's what we're looking at. So
we
that's
want
the
to thank
significance.
China for leading the way.
That's Klaus Schwab.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're just admitting it now. So Zelensky gave a speech to the Chambers of Commerce in Boca Raton.
Oh, great. One of the best.
He gave it. Zelensky thanks BlackRock. Well, let's listen. Here we go.
It is obvious that American business can become the locomotive that will.
First of all I hear is the plane, boss. That's what it sounds like.
Oh, yes.
He sounds like Hervé Villachev.
Yeah.
And
I thought it was being dubbed.
The locomotive.
Pause the plane. All right, here we go.
It is
And by the way, so there is. He said that sending Ukraine heavier weapons like Abrams tanks represents a big business opportunity for U.S. corporations. So there is going to be some good that comes out of this. Okay, here we go.
It is obvious that American business can become the locomotive that will once again push forward global economic growth. We have already managed to attract attention and have cooperation with such giants of the international financial and investment world as BlackRock, JP Morgan, and Goldman Sachs, such American brands as
I like how he says those words. We've attracted BlackRock, JP Morgan, Golden Sachs. I love Golden
Socks.
Have you seen the Golden Socks?
Yeah.
Okay, here you go.
Starlink or Westinghouse have already become part of our Ukrainian way. Your brilliant defense systems, such as HIMARS or Bradleys, are already uniting our history of freedom with your enterprises. We are waiting for Patriots. We are looking closely at Abrams. Thousands of such examples are possible. And everyone can become a big business by working with Ukraine in all sectors, from weapons and defense to construction, from communication.
Everything from weapons and defense to constructing the shit those weapons blow up and then making more weapons to blow up the shit we just fixed.
I think I'm going to move to Ukraine.
It's the cycle of a cut. It's great.
A lot of opportunity right now.
A lot of opportunity.
To agriculture, from transport to IT, from banks to medicine. And I believe that freedom must always win.
I love how he says BlackRock, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, from everything from this to that to building, construction to weapons. But oh, by the way, freedom. I'm sorry, what? Freedom? That's right. This is about freedom. Right at the end, he slips it in. This is about freedom. Holy shit! I almost forgot. This is about freedom. So here's the interesting thing about that. Aaron, you tweeted this out. The feeling is mutual. BlackRock plans to turn Ukraine into a beacon of capitalism, and Goldman Sachs says that Ukraine's reconstruction will offer good economic incentives for a real return and real investment. Why do I never get in on the ground floor of these great investments? I'm over here like a chump worrying about the massive loss of life and possible nuclear war. See, this is what separates rich dad from poor dad right here.
You're talking like poor dad right now.
So, Aaron, let me bring in Aaron Mate, award-winning Russiagate debunker. Are you surprised he's just saying it like this now? That, hey, Ukraine's a great business opportunity, whether it be weapons or reconstructing all the shit that the weapons blow up?
I'm not, because Zelensky is speaking to his real constituency, and that is the elite in NATO states.
That's right.
And that quote there from the head of BlackRock and Goldman Sachs, they're saying that at Davos, another gathering of the elite, that's where they were bragging about how Ukraine's going to be turned into a beacon of capitalism. And I have two thoughts, listening to Zelensky gush over the opportunities in Ukraine as his country is being destroyed. First of all, I want Bernie Sanders to hear that clip, because Bernie Sanders is someone who at home will rail against BlackRock and Goldman Sachs, while still in Ukraine vote for billions of dollars to fund the proxy war that Zelensky is a part of. And so I wish Bernie Sanders could try to make the connection. How is it that I will rail against BlackRock at home and oppose them, but then overseas, I am 100% in lockstep with their agenda. I am helping to turn Ukraine into what BlackRock calls a beacon of capitalism, after, of course, it gets destroyed in the proxy war that we are fueling. So it's amazing to me that progressives can claim that they're respecting their values in funding this proxy war while listening to admissions from Zelensky like this and from BlackRock and Goldman Sachs as well. That's the first point. The second.
Go ahead. So it's the second point.
Well, the second point is that this is a fulfillment of a neoliberal agenda that was a major cause of the 2014 Maidan coup. Because if you go back to that period, okay, so the president that was overthrown in a U.S.-backed coup was Yanukovych. And what set off the protests against him, which the U.S. exploited? It was that Yanukovych was going to sign an agreement to bring Ukraine closer to the European Union. And that's what he wanted to do. He campaigned on that. But then he read the fine print. And the fine print of that agreement, which was heavily pushed by the EU and the US, was that Ukraine would have to cut subsidies to pensioners, reduce wages, and also cut energy subsidies for needy people inside of Ukraine. And so Yanukovych read this and was like, okay, well, this is political suicide for me. Yanukovych was very, very corrupt, but he understood that if he signed this agreement to cut all these benefits for his people, he would be wiped out politically. And in response, the EU was not offering any subsidies, or nearly not enough subsidies, to cover for this. And when Yanukovych rejected that and said, I'm going to try to find a better deal from Russia, or at least I'm going to play Russia and the EU against each other to try to get a better deal for my country, that's when the Maidan protests broke out against him, and the US exploited that to overthrow him. And we've seen since a fulfillment of the neoliberal austerity policies that Yanukovych had rejected, and Zelensky bragging about what a great place for global capitalism his country will be, really is the culmination of that.
I cannot believe. Well, I can, because the people who run the media are the military-industrial complex. They're part of the people who run the media. It certainly is run for corporations, and they're the biggest ones. They're the most profitable, the military-industrial complex. And I don't think people, people turn on the news like they watch this guy Ali Veshi, and no matter who I just pick him out of the hat because he pretends he's not he pretends he's not doing pro-war propaganda, which of course he is. He's getting people killed. He's getting hundreds of thousands of people. He's helping them become slaughtered, and it's all for an economic war. And people like Ali Veshi will wrap it in freedom and fighting evil.
Do you mean people who will literally say anything to get out of Canada? And so they'll say anything to keep their job at MSNBC. And so if he said that this was an economic war, it has nothing to do with free, he would be fired. Sure. And so but that's why we get to do the job here. And that's why places like CNN, the New York Times, and Washington Post try to write hit pieces on YouTube news shows so that we get deplatformed. And because we're an actual threat to their business model, we have bigger audiences than they do. I'm glad that Zelensky did this. I don't think this will help change anyone's mind about the Ukraine war. Do you?
Any normal person who's not a politician or who's not incentivized to go along with the propaganda like many employees of media companies are, I think we'll see this and understand what this is about. So I do think the more facts come out, the more people will be enlightened. That's why we all do what we do, to try to bring the facts to the people and to try to break through the propaganda wall. And I do think that admissions like this are very helpful in exposing the reality.
Fingers crossed. I hope. All right. Well, everybody check out Aaron Mate at his Substack, mate.substack.com. Check out his show, Pushback at grayzone.com.
Pushback.
Thanks for coming on. And Aaron will be back, I'm sure, guest hosting in the near future. So thanks again. Aaron Mate, ladies and gentlemen. What?
If I could plug one thing, every Friday now at the Gray Zone, Max Blumenthal and I are doing a live stream. We'll do it at a non-Jimmy Dore show time. But tune into that because we'll be covering the Ukraine proxy war and many other issues every Friday at the Gray Zone's YouTube page. So check that out.
Okay, fantastic. So we're back. I'm here with Aaron Mate. And guess what's happening? Joe Biden is sending tanks to Ukraine.
And today I'm announcing that the United States will be sending 31 Abrams tanks to Ukraine, the equivalent of 1 Ukrainian battalion. Secretary Austin has recommended this step because it will enhance the Ukraine's capacity to defend its territory and achieve its strategic objectives.
Okay, now, it's not true. None of that is true. Those tanks are not going to even help. They're easily blown up by the missiles that rebels can have. They're horrible. And I could show you the video, but they would demonetize of how easy it is to blow up one of those tanks, because there's videos
You're
all
not
over.
allowed to show a video of that?
They would, if it killed someone, I can't show it or something. So here's the United States has announced it will spend $400 million to send 31 Abrams tanks to Ukraine for Russia to blow up, because that's all it is. And those tanks are worthless, and that's not going to do anything. This is just a transfer of money to the military-industrial complex. And here's the proof. Michael Tracy caught this 1 month ago. An anonymous senior defense official told the Washington Post it would be impossible for the United States to send even a single M1 Abrams tank to Ukraine as a symbolic gesture. But it turns out all things are possible in the world of mass armament provision. And here's the part he's talking about. Told of Renzikov's comments, the first senior defense official said even one M1 was out of the question. Used by U.S. forces in Iraq, the massive battle tanks were hard for us to sustain and maintain. It would be impossible for them. So all of a sudden, they're sending them. According to the Washington Post, U.S. officials say that M1 Abrams tanks newly approved for Ukraine are probably not for the near fight and are not likely to arrive for many months, if not years. What Aaron just explained is that they're going to make new tanks. They're not going to ship tanks that are already made. They're going to spend billions of dollars more in new spending to make 31 tanks, $400 million, and then send those tanks, which is probably going to take over a year to do. So this is not about defending Ukraine. This is not about anything else except transferring money from the U.S. Treasury to the national security state. And by the way,
perfect, Jimmy.
Go ahead.
Perfect, Jimmy, because in the process, by the U.S. committing to send its own tanks, even though it will take months, if not years, that unlocks Germany to send its own tanks now. So what the U.S. has done is it's pushed German tanks into the crossfire. It's advanced the goal of further poisoning German-Russia relations, and it helps prolong the war. And then the question becomes, what next? Within hours of Germany and the U.S. announcing that they would send their tanks, Ukraine said, great, can we get F-16 fighter jets next? And Lockheed Martin responded by saying, great idea. We're already in production on building more to help speed up the transfer of that process. So Lockheed Martin is game. And this is a part of an escalation ladder where, as you pointed out, the U.S. previously said it was impossible to send even one M1 tank. A month later, it's very possible. They're sending 31. And what's next? Are we going to send fighter jets next?
It's all a scam, too. That's the thing you have to understand. The Ukraine war is a scam, and it's about us breaking off Russia from the European economy. It's about keeping Germany away from Russia's cheap fossil fuel. And so that we can then, the United States fossil fuel companies can sell liquefied natural gas to Europe and get some of that market. This is all what's happening, right? But what's actually happening is the exact opposite. We're not putting a hurt on Russia. What we're doing is creating another financial center, meaning it's going to be BRICS. It's going to be all the countries that don't want anything to do with the United States hegemony and imperialism, like China, like Russia and Brazil, India. And when those countries come together in an economic agreement, it's going to screw over our petrodollar, which is going to take away the United States from being the reserve currency of the world, which will crash our economy. They're doing that right now because our country isn't run by politicians. Our country is run by Wall Street, fossil fuel companies, and the military-industrial complex. So they don't care what happens to this country. They don't care what happens to the dollar as long as they keep getting billions of dollars from the U.S. Treasury given to them. We don't live in a democracy. We live in a fucking clown corporatocracy. That's exactly what we live in, and this is proof of it, and the American people are not waking up to it. Although I will say this, Aaron, when I go on stage, when I go in Burbank at Flappers last Saturday, and room full of people who don't know me, and I say, hey, we're giving $100 billion to Ukraine. I would like if they gave $100 billion to America, and the crowd cheers. It sounds like they're catching on. What would you like to say about this?
I agree with you. We're nearly a year into Russia's invasion. Politicians in Washington, with the exception of like a fringe of the Republican Party, are all in lockstep behind this. And the country, obviously, recently there was, and you covered this, about how a record number of Americans are reporting that they have to delay healthcare because they can't afford it.
4 out of 10.
Right? And so 4 out of 10. So people are seeing this, and then they're seeing their elected members of Congress, including progressives who claim to care about Medicare for all and working people, all voting in unison for a disastrous neocon proxy war that is bleeding Ukraine, it's bleeding Russia, and it's fueling a global food crisis, and it's raising every single day the threat of a disastrous nuclear confrontation. And so, of course, people are going to be fed up. And there's more and more actions now. There's a protest coming up in Washington, D.C. on February 19th against the war, where a lot of people who we know who've been on the Jimmy Dore show are going to be there.
I'll be there.
And you'll be there. So, people are waking up. And Remember, before the Iraq War, hundreds of thousands of people were taken to the streets. So the capacity in this country is there. There's just such an elaborate propaganda effort in our media to fool people and to deprive them of the basic facts. But, people can recognize now that these same institutions can't be trusted, and they're waking up.
Well, yeah, Aaron, I personally just want to make sure Ukraine has enough tanks before I get my colonoscopy.